Hello and welcome to the Holle Knits Podcast. I'm so excited that you are here and I am so excited to be here. I am a knitter, obviously, but I've been knitting for about 10 years on and off, and I really picked up knitting in 2021 in the spring when I found out about like actual knitting patterns and not just like tutorials on YouTube. And then I found Knitstagram and knitting YouTube and podcasts, and I thought I would throw my hat in as well. I haven't found a lot of podcasters who use acrylic or cotton mostly. I don't use wool in my own knitting because one, it's a little bit unaffordable for me, and two, I have a wool allergy. Or at least I think I do. I even touched like merino and alpaca and it was still prickly and itchy, so I'm like, that might be an allergy. So I don't knit with wool at all, and I thought it would be fun to make a podcast so other people who have wool allergies or can't really afford wool or don't really want the fuss of wool to have a podcast that they can watch and find some cool patterns. I'm also a knitwear designer, and you can find my patterns on Ravelry. So before we get started, I want to say that for this video I will be going over my favorite knits of 2022 because I don't really want to do everything I knit in 2022 because I don't have everything, and I want to combat comparison, so I'm just going to show you some of the things that I knit this year. Remember that it's not about the quantity of knits you have, but the quality of knits you have and the quality of time that you put into it. But remember that it's not about the quantity that you knit, but about what you knit and how it makes you feel. So, we're going over a few of my favorite whips projects of 2022, and then I will go over some current whips that I took with me into 2023 and some very vague knitting plans, I guess, along with some acquisitions. I don't suspect this will be like a super acquisition heavy podcast because I'm not working with a lot of money, which is one reason that I really like knitting with acrylic. So besides knitting, I also love to bake, and I'm also a painter and a photographer. If you are at all interested in any of those things, drop it in the comments below. I would love to do knit and chats in the future. I think I watch knit and chats more than like formal podcasts. I love a good formal podcast, but I do get kind of drowned in the details, and I love knit and chats because I love just hearing what people talk about while they're knitting. So I'd love to do some of those. We can get started with what I'm wearing. This is the Meli Melo in French. I think it's French for mismatch. It is a colorwork sweater, all over colorwork, and it's knit bottom up, so you have to split, and doing stranded colorwork with purling was a learning curve because I had only done like one other colorwork project before this, which was a pair of socks, but I knit the pair of socks twice, which is my next project. But I'll show you this sweater up close first. Stand up, turn around. Yes. So this was a test knit for Yasmin Knits. I think I haven't seen her Instagram account in a while, but the test knit was amazing, and I think I still follow so many people from that test knit group. So this is knit in Red Heart Super Saver and the Craftsmart yarn that you can buy at Michael's. A lot of these are scraps that I had, and I really love knitting and using up scraps. I did buy a few skeins to like fill out and make the yardage, but I had a lot of yarn left over, and I still have some of these colors. This is a blue color, and this is cornflower blue, cafe latte, gold, leaf green, hunter green, burgundy, and purple. Lots of colors in this, and the red heart colors are the gold, cafe latte, the hunter green. Craftsmart is the burgundy, cornflower blue, and the purple, I think. Yeah, so if you would like to recreate this, you can. In the original pattern, she uses, we are knitters, we don't really talk about We Are Knitters, so I can't remember what other testers used, but that's what I used for mine. So my next project, that I loved, is my first finished object of 2022, which was this pair of Cornette Socks. Loved it so much that I made a second pair. And I did a modification where I added a short row heel instead of an afterthought heel. I can't remember if this pattern was the peasant afterthought or the true afterthought, but I just put in a short row heel because I'm using Woolike by Loops and Threads, and this yarn gets very clingy to itself, surprisingly for an acrylic yarn, so it makes doing a peasant afterthought heel nearly impossible. So these are all over colorwork socks. These are my first colorwork project, and as you can see, I became obsessed with colorwork. There's a lot of colorwork in these knits of the year. Laura writes her patterns amazing, and I love these socks. I want to knit a third pair. I saw, if you go on Ravelry and look at the pattern, which all patterns will be listed in the description, there is a version with black and like a rainbow yarn and a black yarn as the two colors, and I want to make a pair like that with some variegated yarn, so I'm super excited. So this is the regular length version, and this is the long version. So, and if you look at these very closely, you'll notice that I messed up on this pair, that I totally missed like several chart repeats, and I don't know what happened. But first finished objects of 2022, and some socks that I wear like literally all the time. My next favorite project from 2022 is another Laura Penrose or Penrose Knits design. I test knit the Chunky Souffle. As I said, Chunky Souffle with the signature ruffle. I loved this. I love the ruffle. I love the fit. It's all just so good. I knit the size 6, which if I knit this again, I would knit the size 4 because it is gigantic. But it's super cozy and squishy, and I kind of want, since it is so oversized for me, I kind of want to like unpick my Italian tubular bind off and make it into a dress, which would be so pretty, and I think I'd wear it a lot more because it would be like a really pretty dress. I realized knitting this project though that I don't particularly love knitting bulky weight or chunky to bulky projects. They hurt my hands, and the ruffle was a beast with like that large of a needle size. I broke 2 of my interchangeable needle like cables trying to do the ruffle, but I don't regret anything about this knit. Actually, fun fact, the sleeve took me like almost 3 hours. I knit most of the sleeve. I think I got like maybe 2 or 3 rows before the cuff in 3 hours, and I was watching a opera. If you know me, and what you'll get to know about me is I love PBS, and so I was watching PBS on Saturday night because I love all of their Saturday night shows, and I saw that an opera was coming on Sunday night, and I recorded it to watch it in the morning. Monday? Yeah, I guess Monday. Because the opera came on, I think at like 9, and it's a 3-hour opera, and I go to bed. The opera, if you're interested, was called Fire Shut Up in My Bones by the first black composer at the Metropolitan Opera in New York, and it was a good show. If you've seen it, let me know in the comments. But this is the souffle, and I love this so much. If you have knit the souffle, like the souffle tea or the summer souffle, let me know your experience down in the comments, because I am thinking of knitting a summer souffle because I love the souffles. They are amazing. So the next project is my own design. So after knitting this hello and knitting the Cornette Socks, I was like, well, I want to try my hand at designing with colorwork. And so here is the Groovy Raglan. Woohoo! It is my own design, and it's a top-down raglan, as the name suggests, with colorwork. And grading color work is hard, and then grading a raglan is hard, and then combining them together is hard, and then doing it for the first time is even harder. So shout out to my testers, because they really helped me like get this pattern to where it was supposed to be. This is the short sleeve version, and there's a long sleeve version in the pattern. This is actually more of a medium large because I didn't stop increasing on the sleeves and just kept increasing on the body just to focus on getting the yoke depth right. And I realized that I was supposed to stop increasing on the sleeves at some point, and it really made grading like a terror because I didn't know where that point was. So this is a bit bigger than they were in the final pattern. This is my second version that I knit with my testers. It needs a good deep pilling, don't mind all the pills. And so this is a true large. It's a long sleeve, I color blocked it, I thought it was super fun. So yeah, both of these are knit in Woolike by Loops and Threads, and I forgot to say that the Souffle is knit in the Charisma by Loops and Threads, and it was repurposed from my first sweater project. Repurpose your yarns to make things that you wear. And so this is a scrappy project from knitting Christmas gifts for 2021. I took like the black and the gold and the teal and the green and made this. The idea came to me because I have a thrifted sweater that I love wearing, but it has colors that I don't typically wear all the time. So I was like, ooh, I should, make another version of colors that I would wear because I'm a knitter now. And this is knit in fingering weight yarn because that's a commercially made sweater, and I wanted the gauges to be similar. And then I found out I love knitting fingering weight sweaters. Oh goodness. So much that I knit 2, like in succession. Technically I knit 3, but we're not going to talk about the third one today. Yes. So I'm not going to show the thrifted sweater because this came out in so much different than that. So yeah, the Groovy Raglan. I love it. You can find it on Ravelry. Yes. So the next project that I want to talk about is another test knit. I knit test knit a lot in 2022, and it feels like we're going to keep the same momentum in 2023 because in my whips I have a test knit to show you. So this, let me get it, the collar sort of like pops. This is the Florence Polo by Bec Knits. This pattern is amazing, and Bec is amazing at what they do. I want to knit every single pattern that they have and every single pattern that they have a tester call for. So I tested this, and it's just like, it's a polo bottom up with a set-in sleeve, and it is so fun. It has waist shaping. There's a non-waist shaping version. I did the waist shaping, but I knit a size bigger than I would now. I'd probably knit the size 4, and I knit the size 5. And I would love to make a long sleeved black version, but the Judy sweater that is currently in testing by Bec Knits is very similar to this, and I'm like, I might just knit the Judy sweater in black. This is knit in Pound of Love by Lion Brand, which is slowly becoming one of my favorite yarns ever. I wear this all the time. So it is cropped, and I don't wear cropped stuff that often, but yeah, it's so comfortable, and I wear overdresses a lot as well, and with skirts. I don't know what this is. I guess I missed a stitch somewhere, but it hasn't gone anywhere. Highly recommend this pattern, so make this. I highly recommend everything. But this in particular is so fun. And Bec designed this with Savannah Rose handmade midsummer yarn, and a lot of my co-testers, fellow testers knit with that yarn, and oh my gosh, it's so gorgeous. If you have the chance, go just look at Ravelry or Instagram and go to the hashtag and look at that yarn, because it is so gorgeous. I think she's doing a pre-sale right now, Savannah, but I'm not sure. For her yarn Promising Young Woman, which it's based on the wig that she wears in the movie, and the colors in that were amazing. I haven't seen the movie. I'm not a horror movie person, but yeah, that looks really fun. Okay, so back to the knits. I have another pair of socks. So this is my own pair, my own design, a pair of Groovy Socks. So I took the Groovy Raglan colorwork chart and I made socks, and I did a short row heel. Something that I am finding that I don't like about the short row heel is that it doesn't allow for enough room in the gusset, which I know you can add gusset stitches to a short row heel, but it just feels very fiddly. And so these are too big because I knit a lot of socks, and so my sock needles are 2.25, but I wanted to knit these with the same gauge as my Groovy Raglan, so I knit these on 3.25 and went down a few stitches, but they're still a little loose, but they're like tight in the gusset because there isn't enough room. And it's just, I still wear these are great for boots and walking. They're not so great for socks with sandals. So something about me is I didn't like socks until I started wearing like sandals and Birkenstocks, and so I started making my own socks, and I'm like, yes, I want to wear them all the time. So these are the Groovy Socks. You can find this pattern on Ravelry. My testers did some really cool colors. So both of them did like solid, like a variegated color. We all knit with black, which I thought was funny. And they did like a solid color and a variegated color. And there's another, and one of my testers did a rainbow, like an inverse rainbow of the Cornette sock that I saw. And I'm like, man, I really need a pair of variegated colorwork socks. 2023 maybe? Probably. If you have any colorwork sock recommendations, put them in the comments because I do knit socks a lot. I really wanted that, like, what is it, like Charming Colorwork Socks by Still Knit, I think. Really wanted that book. I'll probably have to get it at some point because I do knit socks and I love colorwork. And if you want to knit the Groovy Raglan, I've been making the joke that since they're knit on the same needles and they have the same gauge, you can knit a pair of socks to match your sweater, but also you can make this your gauge swatch. 100%. I support that. So I have one more garment to show you and then a few more accessories. So I test knit, of course, the Oversized dress by Knitted by Anne, which is this gigantic big dress that is floor length. If you want to see this on me, you can find it on my Instagram. I don't think I put a photo of me wearing it on Ravelry. I need to update my Ravelry with photos. My Google Photos is full, so I haven't been uploading photos of my knits. Anyway, this is a long sleeve, big sleeves, and this is knit with the Craftsmart in leaf green. And I realized I haven't talked about yarn for my Groovy Socks, which is also the loops and threads Woolike in like red, gold, rose gold, olive green, and purple, and black. Yes. So, and this is a Craftsmart. I loved this color. It is in my Meli Melo, and I love the color so much. I had some left over, and I made a swatch, and I was like, it got gauge, and so I knit it. And this was a great test knit. Surprisingly, this doesn't take a super long time for me. It's knit on 6.5 millimeter needles, so it kind of, you fly through it, and it took me about a month of like dedicated knitting because I'm a monogamous knitter, so I work on like one project at a time. It's kind of like one project with a caveat. It's like, I'll talk about that more in my whips actually. This is a really great pattern. I highly recommend it. It's so versatile because in the pattern, in the final version, she gives you instructions if you don't have the right gauge, and like, so if you can't get gauge or you want to use a different kind of yarn or you want to like use several different types of yarn, she gives instructions. She gives both lengths so you can knit to the length. It's like, oh, if you don't have enough stitches, do X and X. So I thought that was really cool. So you can like knit this, make it so fun. She used, I think, like Drops Air, which is like a blown yarn, which I highly recommend because surprisingly I used acrylic and this is not that heavy, but with a blown yarn, it'd be like the most squishy, comfy, light, airy gown. I knit mine long. Most people knit theirs short, and I'm like, yeah, you can make short things. Whenever I wear this out, I get so many looks because people are like, what in the world is this girl wearing? Because it's like long to the floor. Just caveat. Laura also uses a blown yarn for the souffle, the chunky souffle. Highly recommend that because the ruffle is heavy. This is surprisingly not too heavy considering it is acrylic, but the ruffle is heavy, and so blown yarn would be amazing for both of those knits. So I have, for the rest of my knits, are accessories. I have a self-drafted hat because I saw Inga of Knitting Traditions wearing a green beanie in one of her podcasts, and I was like, I need one. So this is the Freestyle top-down hat with the Craftsmart leaf green, which I think is like my favorite color at this point. This color, like right here. As you can see, I have a color palette because like all of my knits match my wall. Yeah. This is a top-down beanie, as I was saying, which I knit top-down beanies because there's less measuring involved. I can't be bothered with figuring out where the the decreases begin. So I just increase till you have a little bit less than the circumference of your head so it can fit snug. Won't lie, since this is acrylic, it's stretched out quite a bit, but this was tight when I finished it. It was almost too small. So I used Judy's Magic Cast On, and the same increases that are used on the polo for the Florence Polo. I'm not sure what they're called, but they're kind of like increasing in rib, so you increase a knit stitch and you increase a purl stitch to keep the 1x1 ribbing vibe. Yeah, and they make these like swirl pattern, which is really cool. I know that Sarah Nordland has a few top-down hat patterns, and Pearl Jam just came out with one. So if you would like to knit a top-down hat, refer to people who are smarter than me, because this is a freestyled hat, and I love it. I wear it a lot. I won't lie that I don't like acrylic on my forehead, but it makes a good show. And we have, as Rebecca from the Creabea calls it, the pumpkin spice of the knitting world, a Sophie Shawl. I love the Sophie Shawl. I like petite knits patterns, but every time I see them, I'm like, would I actually wear that? Like, I love the idea of that, and I bet I would love knitting it, but would I actually wear it? Which sounds crazy because she makes like such basic, beautiful patterns that would last and be timeless, but I don't knit with a lot of neutrals because I can go to the stores and buy them because they have neutrals everywhere. But this is more neutral, so petite knits patterns, I was like, will I actually wear them? Anyway, the Sophie Shawl, I was going to say scarf. When I saw reel she made of her putting on the Sophie Shawl for the first time, I was like, that is exactly what I need, because I take walks in the morning and it was just starting to get cold and I needed something like chunky and warm right around my neck. And then I only have, because I knit myself a beanie last year, but it's acrylic so it's too big, and so I needed like something I could wear over my ears as well, and so this has just become everything. It's everything I wanted. This is knit actually in a yarn that I got for my birthday. It was a birthday gift, not in 2021. It's the Blue Sky Fibers cotton worsted. Yes, this is cotton. Crazy. And look at the stretch on that. Crazy. I think this is plied incredibly loosely, so there's like traps air, which makes it very warm. It's just the best. I knit one for someone for Christmas. Like, if you are like, I don't really get the hype, just make one because it lives up to the hype. It totally does. I love this. I wear it all the time. It needs a detailing because guess what? I wear it every day. And so my last project is the Warm Feet for Everybody socks. And the reason that I made these is because my preferred sock method is toe up. And so that's why on my Groovy Socks and on my Cornette Socks I have short row heels, but as I mentioned, they don't have enough room. And so when I was knitting socks for everyone else, like a year ago, I made everybody, like I did them top down with heel flap and gusset. Everybody got these beautiful, nice, handmade socks that fit them well, and then I made myself a pair of socks, and they were short row socks, and they didn't fit very well, and they were too big, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make myself a pair with a heel flap, with a reinforced heel flap, and a nice gusset, and I'm like, there has to be a way to do a toe up, and I found a pattern. And I love these socks. I wear them a lot. I just purchased them like a week ago. I forgot to say that I was doing all of these knits in chronological-ish order because I knit my Cornette Socks before this. This is, as I said, the Warm Feet for Everybody socks. I'm using, well, this isn't the right one, but I'm using, I think it's called Gedfidia, Lana Mia Catone, if we're going for Italian here. But this is the Effecto color, and I will put everything in the description with the colors as well. So this is the speckly one, so it's the Effecto instead of just the Mia Catone, which I'll show my other colors in a second. I love this pattern. It came out really great. The thing that I love about toe-up socks is you just keep knitting till you run out of yarn, and then you cast off. So you don't have to play yarn chicken. You know when to stop because you're done. I like to knit my socks 2 at a time as well, so then you really aren't playing yarn chicken. You know exactly how much yarn, like when you're done, and you've used the yarn that you need to use. So if you want to see this in ball form, I just lost it. Hold on. This is what it looks like in the ball. I have like a little bit left that I'll probably use for a heel toe and cuff on another pair of socks. I love socks, and there's a lot of them. And also, if you're someone who's never knit socks before and you're like, I'm a little intimidated by it, I highly recommend knitting toe-up socks for your first go, because you'll figure out how socks are constructed a little bit better, and you can see how your socks fit you, because you can try them on as you go. High-key a proponent of, when you're first starting out, doing and knitting constructions where you can try them on as you go, so you can see how these knits fit your body and how they work. So toe-up socks and top-down beanies allow you to try them on as you go, so you can see if you have too many stitches or too few stitches, if you need more increases, less increases, more length. Every time I pull these out, I'm like, the foot on this looks so tiny, but they fit me very well. It's the Warm Feet for Everybody socks. Highly recommend this pattern. I think either I misread or one of the increases around the gusset is wrong. Like this, the amount of increases you're supposed to do doesn't match with the stitch counts, but the stitch counts are there, so you can figure it out. And I'm pretty sure you could just once you get the hang of toe-up socks, they become really fun. I am 100% a fan of Judy's Magic Cast On. I will find any and every excuse to use it. It is the best thing ever made. Toe-up socks are my jam. Judy's Magic Cast On is one of my favorite ways to cast on. I think the Old Norwegian is like my top favorite. Let's talk about some whips. Whoa, we finally got there. So I'm currently knitting another pair of Warm Feet for Everybody socks. Like I said, we're gonna do a little bit of acquisitions as well, because my birthday was a few weeks ago and I got this yarn for my birthday. So it is an acquisition, I'm counting it as an acquisition. And these needles that I'm using for my Christmas present to myself. So I'm knitting another pair of Warm Feet for Everybody socks, but as I mentioned, I like to knit my socks 2 at a time, but I recently purchased 9-inch circulars, so I've been testing them out, taking them for a drive. So here's sock number 1, all ready to do the heel, turn the heel, and now I'm knitting the other sock. So when I have projects, I like to have an outside project and an inside project. A project that I can take with me when I'm going out and about. And socks are my favorite project to do that. And the 9-inch circulars have changed the game. You can just knit continuously in the round on a very portable project to begin with. Magnificent. Best thing ever created. So, yes. So this is also the Gedfidia Lana Mia Catone in colors 02317, which is this purple, I'd say bluish purple navy color. Absolutely gorgeous. We have a bit of the black on there. No one said anything. This is the one, the 02317. It's like this really beautiful color, and when it knits up into this beautiful self-striping color. And then for the heel, toe, and cuff of the other sock and the body of the other sock, we have 02315, which is this really nice orange, peach, pink, white. These colors are gorgeous. I saw a green one and I was like, ooh, I want that. So I'm knitting this sock for someone else. So I'm using, which is also an acquisition, Knitter's Pride 2.25 millimeter zing needles for these. Both of these are zing. The long circulars, this is a 100 centimeter cable to knit 2 at a time or to knit garments. I'll get into that in our 2023 knitting plans. And then this is the 2.25 9-inch circular, or I don't know what the centimeters would be, but a 40-inch cable and a 9-inch circular. These are fun. I really love the way these work. I would never pick these colors, but I love the way that they're knitting up, and I absolutely love these colors. And like I said, the person that I'm knitting for picked these colors out because we went to our local yarn store and I picked out this color to knit myself with Kerr socks, and then I said, oh, since you took me to the yarn store, you pick out some colors and I'll make you some socks. And they are incredibly knit-worthy. I knit them socks before and they wore a hole in them, like they wore them like every day, and I'm like, homie, you can't wear your knitted socks like that. This yarn has polyester and cotton, and it's plied super tightly so that it stretches and makes a really stretchy sock, if you can see that. I'll show it on my socks. So they're really stretchy, both like width and height, or vertically and horizontally. They're very tight. And I put these in the washing machine and the dryer and they came out fine. So I also bought myself a second color of the self-striping, and this is color 02309, which is this beautiful like yellow, brown, ochre color. There's some white in there too. I think the white might be the cotton in all of these colors. It is very tightly spun, so when you're knitting with it, it just like spins on itself. So when I was knitting these 2 at a time, I had to like untangle my yarn all the time. And so I picked up a pair of 2 millimeter zing needles on a 40-inch cable or 100 centimeter cable, because I always find that the ribbing on my socks are not tight enough. So I picked up the 2 millimeter. So I knit a lot of socks and I love socks. Socks are great. Let me just get the ball band for my next whip so I can tell you the color. My next whip is another test knit. This time I'm test knitting again for Penrose knits. I'm Laura of Penrose Knits. I'm knitting the Eclair. I'm testing the Eclair. Conveniently, I'm in the middle of a row, but I'm in the front, so you can see it. And this is knit in Pound of Love by Lion Brand in the color Denim. Isn't that beautiful? So a lot of these colors by Lion Brand, I've noticed, is like the colors are plied together, so like they dye blue and then they ply it with like a white, and then you get like this denim color. I've knit with the Pound of Love before with the Florence Polo, and that is spun with like a bright red and a black, and it makes this like burgundy color, so it makes the colors really deep and like rich. You can't really, I don't know if you can see it, but I love this color. I am knitting the size 7, and I'm knitting this for the same person who's getting a pair of socks. So they are incredibly knit-worthy. They saw this and said, ooh, I want one. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll test knit it. You just pick out the color, and you know, they buy all the yarn and I just knit it for them. And they're incredibly knit-worthy. They wear everything, and I wanted them to wear this. I want them to have this because they work at a library, and I'm like, this is such a librarian sweater. There are bobbles on this, but I've decided to do the bobbleless version because I can get my bobbles tight and I can get the stitch after the bobble okay, but the stitch before the bobble, I cannot get that tight at all. And I had such a hard time getting gay with this project. I had to swatch twice. I had to swatch like 3 different needle sizes, and I swatched on like 2 different yarns, and it was just a lot. Because before I wanted to use a different yarn because they love teal, which makes sense because there's teal in this cotton color, and so they wanted a teal sweater. But the teal yarn that I was using was just too thin, so I didn't get to use it. But then they picked this beautiful color which matches a beanie, a commercially made beanie that they have, and I'm like, please wear them together at the library. So this is the Eclair, and I'm obsessed. I took a break so I could knit socks and enjoy the holiday season without like trying to knit cables. So this is my house project, and the Warm Feet for Everybody pair is my outside project, and it's literally for the same person. That's funny. Isn't that funny? Isn't that hilarious? So before we wrap this up, I want to talk about just some vague 2023 knitting plans, because yeah, it's nice to have plans. So I don't have any like concrete plans because I like to sort of see where the year takes me, but I would love to keep designing, and I would love to design some more fingering weight sweaters, which is why I bought my needles to knit 2mm to knit cuffs. Whoa, neckbands and cuffs, I'm all about it. So I have a few design ideas that I'll probably definitely be sharing here on the podcast. One of those ideas, the yarn is literally in the mail, and I can't wait to talk about it in a knit and chat or my next podcast. Me being a 2 project at a time knitter, I'm not quite sure how much I'll have like in traditional podcasty form, so podcasts might be more like a once a month thing instead of like a every 2 weeks kind of thing. But I'd love to do knit and chats. As I said, I watch those, like I love traditional podcasts and I will watch them up the wazoo. But when I see someone, you know, have a knit and chat, I think I'd watch that a little bit more than like my languishing podcast that I need to watch. Partly because I just love hearing what people talk about. Another thing that I would love to knit this year is an Afghan. Or blankets, which I know all of you are like, don't knit a blanket. But I love fingering weight projects because they take long, and I thought, ooh, a blanket would be like the longest thing ever. And so I'm gonna try to show this without giving away the pattern information. This book is checked out from the library, so if you are a library person, hit up the library. Sorry, I never pronounce anything correctly. It's the Florette Sweater. Try not to show any of the details because this is a paid for book, even though I checked it out from the library. This is a Florette, and this whole book has patterns using Barocco Comfort yarn and knit and crochet Afghans. And Barocco Comfort is an acrylic nylon blend, and I've been looking at their sock yarn to knit that fabled variegated Cornette set pair of socks that I want to make, or even variegated Groovy Socks that I want to make. I've been looking at some of the colors of the Barocco Comfort sock. So if you want to knit socks for someone, but you don't know if they like wool, the Barocco yarns are really lovely. And they're actual sock yarns opposed to the Woolike yarn, which is more like a lace weight yarn. So the Florette is what I really like, and then like a pipeline probably will never happen, is the gypsy patchwork. These are just a bunch of like embroidered garter squares, and it's just so beautiful. Another blanket that I'm thinking about, or Afghan. If you have any blankets that you would like to knit, or you would think I would like, send them my way. Yeah, so that is all I had today. This is a long podcast, but if I forgot anything or forgot to mention something, or if you have questions, please put them in the comments below. Everything I talk about will be listed in the description. I'll have to find this book somewhere or I'll look at Ravelry for the specific patterns that I mentioned. So to end this, if you are still watching, tell me if you got something knitting related for Christmas, or if you got something fun for Christmas. I got an ice cream maker. Love it. I make ice cream. Well, I had to make ice cream because the milk was going to go bad, so I had to like make ice cream, and I really love that. So I love to cook and bake, and while I've been podcasting, or sitting here talking to you all, which I've really enjoyed, I have pizza dough rising because I made pizza last night and it was a flop. So I'm redeeming myself. Actually, I forgot to talk about 2 projects that I would like to knit this year. Hopefully, don't hold me to it, is the front porch sweater by Pro Jam. I've been knitting the Eclair and I'm like, the cables are fantastic. I love knitting cables, and that's an all over cable vibe, and I've loved it. I've been looking at that or the Dornie sweater by Rebecca of the Creabea, but I think I like the front porch just a little bit more because the cables are all the same. And I'm knitting the Eclair, and they're very similar, but they look very similar only because I'm knitting it without bobbles. So I'm like, I kind of want my own cable sweater. So I'm looking at the front porch sweater and also the Kerr Sweater by Rebecca of the Creabea. If you know me, it looks like a sweater that I've literally seen at the thrift store, thrifted myself. Like, I'm a thrift person, so like that sweater and the vintage vibes of that is just for me. There's a sweater that's currently in testing called the Good Willow sweater. Definitely want to knit that one when it comes out. And the Judy Sweater, of course, by Bec Knits is something that I would love to knit in possibly Pound of Love byline brand in black, because their yarn is so soft and is like, the acrylic is surprisingly next to skin soft. So if you got anything fun for Christmas, let me know in the comments. Now, if you got something fun for Christmas, let me know. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. If you just want to say hey, if I forgot anything, if I talk too fast, I'm excited that you're here, and I'm excited to be here. So remember, everybody, that it doesn't matter what fiber you knit in or how much you knit, it just matters how it makes you feel. I will see you all in the next one. Have a wonderful and blessed day.